Hey guys, I'm Ethan Moore from Stockroom Supply, and today I want to talk about the Camvac exhaust, or the acoustic outlets, as they're sometimes called, and basically what we can do, or how loud that Camvac is, and what we can do to make it even quieter. Because there is some really interesting options here. Now the first thing that I want to do is get a relative idea of how it compares to other traditional dust collectors. So what I have is a 1 horsepower dust collector here. Now it is advertised to be 78 decibels or less at three feet. So what I've done is I got my cell phone here. I downloaded a free decibel meter app on my cell phone, and I set it 3 feet away from that dust collector. So we'll turn that on and just get an idea how loud this particular decibel meter thinks it is. Okay, so on average, that seemed to say about 83 decibels. Now the other thing I didn't mention that's worth looking at was the frequency. A little harder to see, but it was hovering about 250, 600, somewhere in there. Now the frequency is the tone, so the lower the frequency, the lower the tone, and the higher the higher. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the Camvac, though I have nothing connected at all to the acoustic outlets here. So we'll see how this reads just like this. Okay, so I saw an average of about 82 decibels approximately. So just a hair quieter than this guy right here. Now the frequency was also a little bit different. It looked like it was hovering somewhere between 600 and 1200 in that range. So a little bit higher tone compared to this guy here. Now the next thing I want to do is show you guys some things that you can do or you can add to the Camvac to make it quieter yet. Okay, so one thing I wanted to mention too before we get too much further is about decibels. And one thing to realize is it doesn't take very many decibels to make a noticeable difference. Every 3 decibels is about double the sound intensity. That's a little different than double the loudness, but every 3 decibels you make it gets twice as intense, which is important. So even 1 decibel different where we're at right now is substantial. Now, what I'm gonna do next, if you remember high school physics, sound propagates as a wave. So the more times a wave bounces off something, the less intense or the smaller the waveform gets. So what our goal here is not to reduce the airflow, but to make that sound wave bounce as many times as we can. So one way we can do that, which is really, really simple, is we can add a couple 2.5-inch hoses. These particular ones are about 10 feet long to the top of the Camvac. And we'll see what kind of difference that makes to the overall decibel reading. So I'll turn it on, and then what I'll do is I'll plug both these in, and we'll see what happens. So I was reading, again, they're about 78 decibels. So that was a 4 decibel decrease in what we caught standard there, which is significant. So when you're standing right beside it, it's quite a bit quieter. It may not be easy to tell in the video, but it's pretty significant. Now, the other thing to notice, our frequency really didn't change a whole lot. It'll still look like it was hovering somewhere between 600, 1200 in that range. Now, what I'm going to do here, you guys may have seen this before, but this is a plywood box that I've wrapped just a little bit of foam on the outside of the box, and I got 2 ports on the bottom, and I got an open on the top. Some people would call this a whisper box. This is a very, very poorly made whisper box. I want to make that really clear. It has no baffles, no nothing. It's just foam wrapped around the outside with 2 ports on the bottom. So you could do a far better job of this here. But the other really interesting thing about a sound wave is when it hits something porous, it doesn't bounce very good at all. It kind of totally messes up the wave. So a really good way to make it quieter is by having foam inside of a box like that. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to plug, turn this back on, plug these two ports in the bottom, and we'll see where that leaves us. Okay, so that may not have been a huge decibel decrease, maybe 1 decibel decrease from my standard hoses, but the other thing to notice was the frequency there. What happened there is rather than being that huge range in frequency that we were finding before, that was now hovering at about 600 approximately, a lot lower frequency than what we found. So if you add a whisper box like that, that's probably the biggest advantage, is it lowers the frequency quite a bit and it makes it a lower sound, which can be a little more comfortable for some people rather than a higher pitched sound there. So now if I did a better job of building a whisper box with some angled baffles in it, with some more ways to make those sound waves bounce, the more times that sound wave bounces, the smaller the waveform gets and the quieter the whole thing gets. So there's lots that you can do even beyond what I've done here to make it significantly quieter. But very simply, I was able to take it from 82 decibels to 77 decibels, which is nearly a 4 times decrease in sound intensity, which is a lot. So yeah, if anybody else has any questions, you can email us at info@stockmansupply.com, or just comment on the video, or if you've made your own whisper box, I'd love to see that as well. So share that with us via email, or even better, in the comments. Thank you very much.
You know, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Physics.
Yeah.
What was your high school physics grade?
Oh, it wasn't very good, because I didn't do any homework, but I listened in class, and I did stellar on exams, so it was probably like a 70. I did really good in testing, but I didn't do any of the homework, so it kind of screwed my grade up. But I really enjoyed physics.